Hello, this is Deborah Anderson, and this is my show, The Second Act, Life After Sports, and I have Dakotah Tyler with me. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm an astrophysics PhD student here at UCLA.
Mm-hmm.
I study exoplanets. I'm an astronomer.
Mm-hmm. Where are you from?
I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana, so the Midwest, 317. I know you also from the Midwest, even though you got that Southern accent.
For my 12 years in New Orleans, but yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Midwest is the best. How was it like growing up? How did you get interested in football, and like what was that kind of journey?
Mm-hmm. I feel like football is a sport that a lot of kids play. It's so super common for kids to get into sports, and I think that there's a lot of benefit there. Teach you, to work hard. You get some good physical exercise, that sort of thing. Teach you to work in a team,
Mm-hmm.
and I was good at it. I was good at various sports, and as I got older, like into high school, I got like really good, and I really enjoyed the process of working. I really like to exercise and work out.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just kind of like naturally evolved into that. And at a young age, that's who, my heroes were. They were football players, or running backs or quarterbacks, whatever. And that's just like sort of a natural evolution.
When in your journey did you decide to you want to try to go to the league?
Oh, I mean, that never stops.
Mm-hmm.
So from a little kid, I think most little kids, when you're playing a sport, no matter how good you are or how big you are, you want to go to the NBA, the MLB, NFL, whatever.
Yeah.
And I think it becomes more realistic as you get better, at least in your mind.
Right.
Statistically, it's never that realistic.
Yeah.
But so I guess I would say around high school, that became something that I was like, okay, like this is something that's realistic for me.
Take me to you playing in college and then your injury. What happened?
Yeah, so I was playing at the University of Kentucky, and I tore my ACL, which is
that's in sports.
It's pretty common. It's a common injury, and the advancements in medicine have gotten to the point that it's really not career ending.
Oh, that's good.
Most people bounce back from ACL injuries. I had some problems when I was rehabbing, and I ended up tearing my meniscus a couple more times, and it was just not possible for me to train at the same level, which that kind of is the writing's on the wall at that point if you're not sort of able to train at that high level. So my last couple years at the University of Kentucky, it became clear to me. I started accepting that this was not going to be a part of my life moving forward. And it was a huge transitional period for me, but obviously that led me to where I'm at today.
You say you didn't learn math until you were 24, 25. What was school to you before then?
What was school to me before?
Was it just something to do while you're playing football?
Yeah, it's school. Yeah, okay. So up until the point when I started studying to be an astrophysicist, school was the box that you have to check to play football.
Yeah. And so were you keeping the bare minimum grades too, or?
Yeah, whatever that needed to be. I got the cutoff so that I could go to college. I got the cutoff, which is it's a pretty low cutoff.
Yeah.
You don't have to perform well in the ACTs or the SATs or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, it was just kind of this is what you need to do to continue to,
do what you love.
Play football. Yeah.
So many people these days are afraid of math and are constantly talking about how they're bad at math and science. As someone that crossed that hurdle, what do you think is the key to jumping over the hurdle? Math
is the scary thing. The word is scary, right? And it was for me too for a long time before I learned it. But you have to realize that, in academics, learning anything is something that is typically hard at first when you don't know how to do it. You don't understand that it's a skill that can be practiced and developed.
Yeah.
And I think that what, for me, I was able to do was to realize and to apply this rigorous work ethic and dedication to learning the skill of math and the skill of physics and what that logic skill kind of looks like. And I would do it in the same way that I would do for football. When you're doing weight training or doing these drills, you practice them over and over, and you're not that good at first.
Yeah.
And you get better and better. And eventually you get to the point where muscle memory, it's kind of second nature. and you don't even have to think about it.
Right.
You can just go and do it, and you can start getting creative with the moves that you make or whatever. And it's really the same thing with any skill, painting, interviewing. Yeah. It's something that you're going to get better at over time. And so if you remove this thing that's like, oh, I'm not good at math, I can't do math. That's this monster that I can't conquer. And just learn that if you practice anything, you're going to get better at it. Yeah. It slowly gets revealed that there's nothing actually to be afraid of there. Yeah. It's just a matter of kind of doing it over and over.
For me in my industry, I'm what's called a 3D modeler. So if you think about this room, I make everything in, like I make the room and then I make everything in the room. Yeah. Because everything in a 3D space starts empty. And so something in my industry is learning this program called ZBrush, which is a digital sculpting program. And I've been struggling for years to learn it, mostly because I'm like half analytical and half creative. And I feel like my analytical keeps my creative in a prison. And so I'm very much step by step in learning. Mm-hmm. And ZBrush is very much playing around and like having fun. And I'm like, what? Play around, act like a kid. I don't learn that way. And so I've been trying to think about, I remember for my other YouTube channel, I created some merch and I was shooting some footage. Mm-hmm. And so I was like at a basketball court and like shooting shots. And because it's been a long time since I played basketball, it took me longer. I was like, I'm gonna make the two corners, the wing and the top shot. Mm-hmm. But it took me a long time to do that because I ain't been playing it. So
you can't shoot. You're not a shooter.
I am a shooter, but I am not in shape. That's the one thing I can do is shoot. Now, handles, that's off the table. Mm-hmm. But shooting, I can do that. So I was like, I had this thought of what made me continue to shoot, even though I was continually not making it. Mm-hmm. What made me push through to be like, okay, I will eventually make it. And how do I transfer that to my learning in my 3D, where I'm very, I'm like giving up and like all that stuff. So I'm trying to kind of think out that process of like thinking of even learning 3D as a sport and like coaching and like what drills can I do to like learn how to do 3D sculpting, and then like what are all the transferable things from sports that I can do where I can like get out this mental prison of like, man, this sucks, or I'm struggling, this doesn't look nice. How can I just do the drills and not think about it? Mm-hmm. And then at the end of it, I'll have the skill.
Yeah. And it also feels better, and it feels, I don't know if fun's the right word, but there's a positive feeling that comes with when you do start to do the things right and you do start to see the progress. Yeah. And it takes out, the like horrifying or the boring aspect or whatever it is that you kind of dread about it as you start to see the progress. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out like what is the beef of animation? Because when you learn to shoot, you like balance, eye, elbow, follow through. And doing that, like I used to do that drill all the times. And it's like, now I can just do this.
That's good form.
And so what is that for animation for me? And then since I like to teach, how can I teach in a coaching form and not like traditional academic teaching? What was required for you to take the jump from being afraid of not having a strong math and science background to saying, despite that, I'm going to pursue my dreams in astrophysics? Like,
yeah. So I was never, I don't think I was ever scared of it.
Okay.
I knew that I had years to work up to even be able to get to the level that I wanted.
Yeah.
And that's just what I wanted to do. And this was sort of like a part of that process. And that didn't bother me or cause me to pause. Now, there were times when I was, for example, in community college, and the first time I took calculus, I got a C or a D or something like that, which is not good enough.
Yeah.
And I suppose that could have been a point where I was like, all right, well, this actually is too hard and I can't do this. But I just retook the class and then got an A in it. Mm-hmm. And all I did was spend more time on it. I worked, worked harder at. I was a little more diligent. I just tried,
Yeah.
Again. And for me, it's those types of things, like having those examples to fall back on really builds a lot of confidence for me, where there isn't actually things that I don't think I can figure out.
Right.
There's not actually things that I don't think that I can do.
Yeah.
Some scary thing that I don't understand right now is, there's just a period of time between when I do understand it and right now.
Yeah.
And I have to figure out how to navigate that.
Yeah.
But I know that I can.
Right.
And I think that everybody can. I don't actually think that there are skills that, like, sure, certain people may be like a little naturally better at doing X, Y, or Z. And it's obvious, I think, in sports when somebody is just naturally more talented. But for skills that are less like dependent on your physical ability, you can do it. You may have to apply yourself a little bit more or whatever, but there was not something that really scared me off from that.
Yeah, but I also feel like in sports, if you think about like Michael Jordan, where he had to work. Like there is that natural talent, but there's a lot of naturally talented people in sports that don't go to the professional level because talent only takes you so far, and it's the hard work that actually takes you further.
True.
Yeah.
That is true. And I mean, so like, I guess that's how you don't just go to the NBA, but you become like one of the greatest players ever.
Yeah.
But he was also 6'6", and he also did have like a 60-inch vertical or something like that.
Yeah.
And
so it helped a little bit.
I don't know how hard you have to work to be 6'6", but yeah, for sure. Like obviously very skilled, worked on, all the small details, put in maximal effort and that sort of thing. And yeah, you're right. Like having the persistence and the work ethic is really the difference most of the time.
Because even in the creative industry, there's people who say that they're not creative, and there's like I remember following the guy kept on stage, and his wife would always be like, I'm not creative, and him and like the dude Josh Guns, who's his photographer, because they're creatives, they're like, yes, you are. But when you don't identify as a creative, you don't see how you're creative. And so people think, oh, all the artistic people are naturally talented. And it's like, yeah, some of us have natural talent, but what makes us artists is the work we put in.
Yeah.
It's not all natural talent the whole way through. It's the amount of times we drew or the amount of times we put in the work that actually made us talented. Yeah. So it's like kind of a disrespectful thing where it's like, you think that I didn't have to try to do this, but I actually tried really hard to do this.
So. Absolutely. And I didn't used to think that I was creative. I think that a lot of people have this thing, I were talking about science and math, is this like, you have like a math side. Yeah. And then you have like a creative side, and then these things are unrelated. That's actually not true at all. Most of the people who've come up with the most fundamental or significant scientific discoveries, like Albert Einstein, who I think everybody sort of notoriously recognizes as a genius or one of the smartest people ever, whether or not that's true. Yeah. That's the image that people have. And he was very good at like analysis and math and logic, that sort of thing. He really understood physics as we knew it at the time. But he was extremely creative in how he constructed a new way of viewing the universe. Like that's creativity. Yeah. That's not just like a logical thing like that. He was being very creative. Yeah. And you to like build that and to make those connections, you have to be creative. And I think that creativity is just another skill. It's like you said, you just don't have it or don't have it. Yeah. Right. You can build it, and sure, like perhaps some people are a little bit more adventurous or creative in their mind or whatever, but that is just another skill to build, and we all can build it, just like all skills.
So how was learning different before and after you were diagnosed with ADHD?
That's such a funny question, because I recently got my master's in astrophysics this past spring. And in my program, that sort of marks your last class. Like I'm done with classes. I'm still learning. I'm still doing research, but my classes are done with. And for me, the classes were the things that were such a struggle with having it like sitting in lecture and not being able to pay attention at all. and scanning the classroom and seeing everybody else like meticulously taking notes and then I look up and there'll be like 6 more lines of notes and I'm like, damn, and I'll try to copy the things and catch up. And I have to go back at the end of the day, go through my notes again. And it'll feel like it'll take me a long time to kind of get through that process or to go through all the homework, whatever the case is. I'll be reading a passage, get to the end of it, and literally not know what I read and have to go read it again. And so it would take me so long to do things.
Yeah.
And it got to the point that I actually thought that I had CTE. Like I thought I had like, symptoms from playing football for a while, like brain damage.
Yeah.
And I met with a neurologist and they were like, no, doesn't seem like you have CTE, but you may have ADHD. You should get evaluated. And I did. And I got the ADHD evaluation. I was like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. Because, there's the opportunity to take medication, but there's also just a lot of behavioral things and sort of tasks that you can put yourself throughout the day to like stay on track and develop the better time management skills and that sort of thing. And it would have been so much easier to go through all those classes for the past 6-7 years if I knew that and was kind of preparing for it in acting in ways like I knew that I had ADHD. But to get the diagnosis now, I mean, I guess it makes sense.
When did you get diagnosed?
It was earlier this year. Yeah, like right around the time I was finishing up classes for good. And so before and after, I mean, what's the difference?
Because you're not learning.
I'm not taking any classes.
You're learning, but you're like not taking classes.
Yeah, I'm not taking any classes, but it's something that I'm cognizant of.
Yeah.
And I can try to eliminate some behaviors that for me could like snowball into getting distracted and that sort of thing. So the difference before and after, I mean, I feel really proud of myself for being able to go through all that with this undiagnosed thing that makes it like really hard to pay attention and focus and learn and stay on track. And to be able to have done all that, it makes me feel pretty confident, pretty proud.
You did like an academic Tough Mudder.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I mean, it was like the most difficult way of like just running straight into a wall over and over and over and over when probably there was like a hallway that I could have went through over there.
Yeah.
But you live and you learn and yeah.
So you've already talked about this a little bit before, but how can you relate the discipline you needed for sports to the discipline you needed for academics? So
in sports, we learn to fail and to go again. You can think about a play I play football, in football, and you kind of, if you're going against somebody on the other side, you kind of win or lose each play.
Yeah.
Like if I'm a receiver, I could run a route and get covered completely. And I kind of lost that play.
Yeah.
I could run a route, get open, and I won that play. Like whether or not I got the ball from the quarterback. And either way, you like get back and you learn to forget that play, the next play. It doesn't matter if you scored a touchdown last time you were out here. We got to line up and there's another play. It doesn't matter if you drop the ball, whatever.
Yeah.
And that is like a great skill to be able to show up, do your best, and then take from it what you can, but move on and try to do your best again. And in academia, there's a lot of rejection.
Yeah.
You're applying for stuff all the time. You're mostly getting rejected. And that can be demoralizing for a lot of people. But for me, and I don't know if this is my own delusion or like a remnant from sports, rejection doesn't demoralize me at all. It actually kind of like galvanizes me. When I get rejected, my confidence actually raises. Like I feel better. I feel like more confident that they messed up by not accepting my application, by not giving me that opportunity. Yeah. That was like a silly thing for you to do. And I weirdly like feel better about myself. For me, rejection kind of like motivates me, galvanizes me, which also to me, it's a good feeling. Like that feeling of motivation and like that I can do it it's a good feeling. And I'll see other people, a lot of colleagues that I have, and it's kind of like they get beat down from keep getting told no. And it makes sense. But to me, like one of the best things aside from hard work and discipline and the fact that you can build these skills is that you can't let that loss weigh on you. Yeah. Because that's going to lead to more losses. You're not going to be in the right mind frame, in the right mindset, and you'll be looking for the wrong things, not looking to succeed. So being able to shrug off rejection, shrug off L's, and use it to motivate you to get better, I think is a big thing for me.
I feel like I can use that to add into my idea of the 3D thing, because like I didn't get that play, but tomorrow I'm gonna do another play. And like a little 30-second, if I do, or not 30-second, but if I do like 30-minute studies of like trying to do like, oh, this play sucked, but tomorrow I'm gonna do another play. Hopefully I get better.
Yeah, sometimes the play's gonna suck.
Right.
Sometimes it's gonna flop.
So even
sometimes
that internal of like just saying it's a play, it'll probably make me feel better.
Just get them next time. Yeah.
What are the transferable skills from your football career that help you in your career in astrophysics?
I think that from playing sports, you learn to work hard, to show up every day, to be how important consistency is, how important it is to have the right mind frame, the right mindset and attitude, how important it is to be able to work with other people. A lot of people don't know this, but science is collaborative. I have a research group directly that I collaborate with. I collaborate with my advisors. I have collaborators across the country that we work with. I have colleagues that I don't necessarily collaborate with, but have expertise in other fields that is important for me to understand. And you really can't do it on your own. Yeah. Like you do need other people. There's only so much that you can do by yourself. And obviously football to me is one of the ultimate team sports. There's a lot of people in the field that have to sort of click at the right time to be successful and to, ultimately have the winning outcome. So I would say collaboration, work hard, discipline, persevere, be consistent. So those are really like the big ones that come to mind.
Yeah, I feel like being in the animation industry, it's crazy because there's so many people who have a certain personality, not me though, but like that aren't able to communicate. And so an entire industry of people, not entire industry, but like 60 to 70% of people can't communicate, but we somehow create these films. Like, but people who's been in the industry for a decade are like, yeah, we just be somehow creating films at the end of this because it just be all haphazard and all this stuff. And I'm on a production now, and I can feel it like, how do we get stuff done? Because ain't nobody doing what they're supposed to be doing. Yeah. And so like it's just failing up, and then sometimes then we come out with a TV show or a film.
Yeah. I mean, in my field, physics and astronomy, astrophysicists, these are not people who are known to be like great communicators.
That's what I was
not thinking. Known to be like socially sort of agile or anything like that. So I know exactly what you mean. It's it can be like pulling teeth. Sometimes I have a conversation with people who will like say like rude, off the wall, like out of pocket comments, and not really seem to even be aware that what you're doing right now is weird socially. You're being socially weird when you're saying like what you just said to me was rude. Yeah. And you kind of, but having that awareness is like, okay, like I know
and then giving people grace, because I understand like a lot of people are neurodivergent and all that stuff. So it's like when some things that people have done to me, and particularly since I moved to LA, I'm like, let me give them grace because they might be scared to talk to me, and they're not like actually shunning me. For sure. They're just being themselves.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. And to me, that kind of like falls back to what we were saying before, where being able to like take an L in a situation where I could be totally offended by what just happened, and I could let that get me off my center and have my mind all over the place. But is that really necessary? Is that really helping me? Yeah. It's probable that they said something off the wall, but weren't really meaning to be truly offensive, or maybe they didn't really, understand what they're doing. Maybe they're neurodivergent and just didn't really like pick up that that was something weird to say. Yeah. And for, the best thing that you could do is kind of like shrug it off and move on and not let it get to you, because it probably wasn't a personal attack.
Because I'm the more aware person, so I'm like,
and it pays to have that sort of emotional maturity.
Yeah. So how can young people take a scientific approach to their journey in sports in their in their lives and get better at asking themselves questions about the path they want to take? Because I know you mentioned before about the scientific method of like asking questions. So how can they take a scientific journey for their sports and their life?
So the scientific method is something that most people learn at a young age, at least generally, in how we do science, and why that's a reliable way to go through, to make an observation, to ask a question, to try and test it, and then look at the results and see if our initial question or our initial hypothesis was right or not. And that's something that you should be applying to your life at all times. You have these things that you want to do in life, or you have a way that you want to feel in life. You consistently are not feeling the way that you want to feel. What is going wrong here? Like, what is not working?
Yeah.
Is it this thing? Is it this thing? Maybe I should switch my diet up. Maybe I should exercise more. Maybe I should spend more time with friends. Maybe I should spend time with a different group of friends. Maybe I'm in a bad relationship. Like, whatever it is, it could be a trillion things. And sort of making those observations, asking those right questions, trying to get through to the bottom and see if it's right or if you need to tinker with stuff a little bit. And we should you should be doing that in all areas of your life. I think for me, I wanted to do something that I enjoyed. I love playing football. I love playing sports. I love being active. It was something I'm very passionate about and interested in. And so I knew that the direction that I went in was going to have to be something that I was passionate about, very interested in, that I felt like was fulfilling a purpose, that was something that I was good at, where like I fit in there. And it was, like I said, it was for me, it was the universe, talking about the universe, making videos, staying up all night and doing observations and looking at planets. And that is something that makes me joyful. It like fills me up with excitement. And I love to explore and learn about it. And that was sort of answering the question for me of like, what drives me? What's going to make me ultimately happy? And as time has gone on, I've been able to like narrow that down a little bit and also like branch into other things that I enjoy doing. I really like making, the TikTok videos and doing the science communication stuff and sharing that knowledge in a fun way. And so like a lot of the questions that I'm asking for myself is sort of what am I really aligned with? What's most authentic to me, and following that regardless of what, society thinks or other people think, but really just like what's in alignment with me, and then doing this scientific method to answer those questions.
I feel like we get stuck as human beings. We get stuck in like, when we were 18, I was going to do this. Like, I was going to get married. I was going to do this. I was going to have a career. I was going to be rich. And then it's like people don't have the perspective of like, you were kind of dumb at 18. So like, why are you like 25 relying on what your 18-year-old self had as goals, and your 18-year-old self hadn't experienced life. So you didn't know how crazy it was to have those goals. You didn't know what path you didn't know what people you were going to meet. So like, just pivot, like just update your goals according to your life. And what you've experienced.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's not even just that you're dumb, which for sure, like, I still feel dumb at times, but I know myself a lot better. And how are you going to come up with a plan that's going to work for you if you don't know yourself, which it takes time to figure those things out. It takes time to have those experiences and see what you are, what makes sense for you. So having this sort of predetermined teenage, plan for yourself, I think it probably rarely works out. And as you go along, that should be changing too. You should be evolving as a person.
And you shouldn't get discouraged. You just, it's just a play that didn't work out. Like this thing unfolds in a way that can be unpredictable, but you can still try to make the best moves as you go. And this is where I think like a scientific way of thinking, a critical way of thinking and analyzing your situation really comes in handy for everybody. For me, as a former athlete, I know how much work and focus goes into trying to play at a high level. So that's where a lot of people's laser focus comes from who try to play sports at a high level. How do you think athletes can balance trying to play sports at the college and pro level without putting all their eggs in one basket? Because I feel like that's what attributes to a lot of the depression that can happen once the journey's over.
If you're focusing on this one specific thing, which is what, like you said, it's what you have to do to get good at a sport. Sometimes it's what you have to do to get good at anything. How could you do that in multiple ways? It's like, if I could have seen in the future, known that I wasn't going to be playing football for a couple of years, I would have just started this journey earlier. Maybe that's not how it happens though. That's like, we don't have that information. You only can work with the present moment. And, I think that it can help to be aware of the fact that either any way it goes, sports are going to be something that is going to be limited. Even if you have a prolific career as an athlete, it'll probably be over in your 30s at some point, and you still have 30, 40 more years of life. So you're eventually going to have to answer that question and like make that transition regardless.
Yeah.
And trying to develop yourself more outside of that is the only way, in my opinion, to go about it. But it's not an easy thing to do.
For me, my thought of, because I didn't go play no D1, nobody's sport, but I'm like, maybe even if you choose something and you don't pursue it, but it's in the back of your head and you're laser focused on your pro career, but there's like that one thing, there's like, if something happens, this is what I'm interested in.
Yeah.
And that, I feel like maybe that, because I feel like most people who are trying to play sports don't ever think about another thing.
Yeah. I never did. It's not true for everybody. There's, I had a lot of teammates that took very seriously their academics.
Yeah.
And, when they were done playing, had it like sort of an easier transition into that part of life, that new stage. But for the most part, I don't think that that's very common.
Yeah.
And that can be a huge sort of gaping hole, like a very depressing thing to deal with. So I think that it's always good to develop yourself as a person in other areas. I think it's very hard to get a young athlete to see that.
Yeah.
And again, it's like you said, if you focus hard enough and you get good enough, you can have that carry you, carry you further.
Can you talk about mob mentality and how self-awareness can give you autonomy? And, feel free to connect that to the science as you've done in your videos.
Absolutely. So mob mentality, something that I think doesn't even really need to be defined. Everybody kind of understands that you get a huge group of people that act differently than individuals will act. Even just a small group of people will act differently than a huge group of people or people as individuals. And this is something that is very common. You kind of see it all the time.
Yeah.
You can have like one drop of water that just does this little drop thing and sits there and doesn't really do anything. But you have an ocean of water and totally different sort of behavior. There's like waves that happen. There's currents and stuff that happens within the water.
Yeah.
And this is a very...
And tsunamis, destruction.
like so many different things that individual like H2O molecules just don't exhibit.
Yeah.
And one thing that we can be aware of, like being aware of that fact is important.
Yeah.
Being aware of the fact that in an environment with other people, you're being heavily influenced. And to be able to stop and kind of analyze your behavior, stop and like gather your thoughts and make sure that what's going on is something that you're aligned with, something that you value, that's important to you is super important. Like having that self-awareness is everything. And for me, it's been really important as well. I'm in a field where there aren't people like me. Yeah. And it's not just that there's only like 1% of Black people in the field, but there's just not people that have like the background that I have, that have come from where I have. It's academia is typically like a pretty high class, people coming from upper class and that sort of thing. And so I'm around people that I just don't like necessarily fit in there. Yeah. And there's always an urge when you don't fit in to fit in. But for me, I try to maintain, like you said, autonomy and stay authentic and stay true to myself. And right there, it's just, you just have to realize that the group is not always the best way to go.
And the group is not always right.
The group is not always right at all, right? And that can be a hard thing to face. That's why
particularly the younger you are.
Yeah. And that's why you have to be able to have like your own values, your own morals, things that you stand for, and to be able to like hold true to that in the face of a lot of other people.
What are the various aspects of astrophysics that people can pursue?
I would say that a good place to begin, I mean, there's tons of good science communication on astronomy and astrophysics. A place that I would start, if I just really wanted to like learn some more stuff about the universe, is probably the TV series Cosmos. Okay. So there's two versions. There's an older version with Carl Sagan, who's one of my favorite science communicators of all time. And then there's a newer version with Neil deGrasse Tyson, who's also one of my favorite science communicators of all time. Yeah. And one of the people that actually got me interested in astronomy years ago. And I think that both of those are good places to start. The newer one has better CGI, like better visuals, like amazing visuals.
Yeah.
The older one doesn't really have those same visuals because it's from the 80s.
Yeah.
But Carl Sagan, he connects beautifully the universe to something closer at home, some meaningful thing for us as humans. And I don't think that, in my opinion, a lot of science communication today leaves that out completely. Yeah. It's like these things are amazing, you know, black holes and galaxies and explosions. And they are amazing and they're really cool to look at. But there's like some deeper connectivity that I feel to the universe. Yeah. And Carl Sagan really kind of captures that. So honestly, I would start there. I would start at the 80s Cosmos series, which I think is on YouTube now.
How can you use your interactions with people judging a book by its cover in regards to your study of astrophysics or anything else and give encouragement to young people about their interests?
Getting judged off of how you look is something that always happens, has always happened. It's going to continue to happen. Hopefully people are becoming more aware of that and realizing that, oh, like every scientist isn't this wiry-haired, gray-haired looking person, you know, that absolutely cannot communicate to you in a way that is making any sense. Yeah. And yeah, like I said, for me, it's really important to be authentic. And it doesn't actually bother me if I'm accepted by people. It actually doesn't bother me at all. I don't really care. And because like, why would I be accepted as an astrophysicist? What astrophysicists came through look like from where I came, it hasn't happened. Yeah. You know? And so I almost feel like that's to be expected. Right. And it doesn't really bother me. And hopefully, you know, young people can see that you can go through this space and be authentic. You don't have to sort of like bow to the group and try to be like, you know, whatever you think that means other people to be. And there's a lot of, especially the young generation of astronomers and astrophysicists, a lot of colleagues that I have that are, you know, the diversity in the group is getting a lot better and people are able to be themselves more. And it's a great thing. Yeah. So if you want to be yourself, you're going to have to deal with some friction. Yeah. That's what's going to happen. You don't have to do that. You can try to be like some other thing. Personally, I don't think you'll get satisfaction. I don't think you'll be happy and you'll come to a place where you're really loving everything and loving yourself properly. But for me, like I said, that friction or that like rejection or whatever, it actually makes me more confident in being myself. So you could just delude yourself in that way and it'll be a little bit easier. But that is something that you'll have to deal with.
Something that I learned being a leader is because I haven't dealt with like the code switching stuff, but like specifically in being a leader and like trying to conform myself to be more palpable or a myriad of things, people will dislike you anyway. So you might as well be disliked for being yourself.
Yeah. No, it's really the right thing. It's really the right thing because you're always putting something out there to, you know, as humans, I think we pick up mostly on nonverbal communication. So you and I coming in the same room, we're both putting something out there and you're picking up on it and you could put out there what you are and people can hate that or love that, reject that or whatever. Or you could put out what you think you should be or how you want them to see. And they're going to also accept that or hate that or love that or reject that. And for me, being loved or being accepted for something that I'm not, it doesn't mean anything. That's a form of like active self-hate. Yeah. Like, I don't want you to like me for what you think that I should be. Yeah. I'm me. You can like that. You can hate it. But that's what you're going to get. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's like that. We can pick it up. We can leave it there. You can pick it up. Like, that's what it is.
Right. Can you tell me what Black and Astro means to you?
Black and Astro is this organization that I'm a part of that really focuses on highlighting and amplifying Black voices and Black scientists, researchers in the aerospace, astronomy, astrophysics, planetary sciences. And for me, it's important to be a part of that group because that is like kind of what I stand for. It's kind of what I value. Yeah. It's like we try to be ourselves and we try to be authentic and highlight that we're here. Yeah. We're not super visible. If people are thinking in their minds, what does an astronomer, what does an astrophysicist look like? And you're not picturing me or somebody else in the group, then the group is necessary. Like
Yeah.
those voices need to be amplified. We need to shine the spotlight there.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's like really important. Some of the work that we've done is help to fund Black grad students to go to conferences.
Mhm.
We have had research competitions for undergrads so they can get exposure and practice presenting and that sort of thing. And every week we put on this Black and Astro week where we just, again, highlight Black researchers in the field and the work that they're doing and try to put together like community building events and that sort of thing.
How can diversity spark creativity?
This is a great question. You know, how can diversity spark creativity? It's, you have a bunch of people, you know, in a room and they all think the same way because they had similar life experiences. There's not a lot of room to take new steps, to make new connections. Like it can happen, but probably that'll happen a lot more if you have people who are thinking differently, who are seeing things differently. And you need that. And, you know, there's tons of different ways that you can, you know, select for people who have diverse backgrounds. It could be a race thing. It could be sexuality. It could be gender. It could be a number of things. But diversity is so important because all of those experiences are going to lead to like different ways of thinking, different adaptations that people picked up, and different types of creativity. So it's almost, for me, it's kind of like self-explanatory why having a diverse group of people is going to lead to more creative outcomes.
What you were saying with how different people think. Also, when we come together, when we collaborate in a unique way, and then we bounce off of each other, and then that's creating a super brain of sort, where now we can get to this scientific thing quicker because we're bouncing off of each other. And we're able to communicate effectively.
Absolutely, right? Because each person has their own diverse sort of like way of thinking or experiences, and then you're combining that around. It's like a brain within a brain within a brain, and though, like, how many ideas can you come up with in that situation, or like how efficient can you be? That's a great example.
It's like the Black Twitter of science. Your video where you like somehow got to alien food stamps was hilarious. I don't remember the path.
Hold on, alien food stamps?
I don't remember the path, but it was hilarious. And then also your and you, like, when you related the Voyager sending the pulsar map into space as a reason for the need for diversity, I thought that was hilarious and clever. So, like, what made you decide to start creating videos?
So I've always wanted to be a science communicator, I think. I've always I love talking about this stuff, and I think that it's really interesting, and I think that there's so much value in it. Beyond, like I said, there's so much value in learning about the universe beyond how amazing things are and how big they are and how great the numbers are and how many planets there are. Very, very cool. Very beautiful pictures. But there's something more to be learned. Like we live in this universe. The same rules that made everything made us. There's no reason to think that we're like discrete and separate from the rest of us. No, like the same stuff is affecting everybody. So when you learn more about the universe at large, you can learn more about yourself or like interactions. And it kind of sounds like an out there idea, but why would it be different? Like, why would it be any other way? And for me, I think that I believe that. And so, and I also think this space is cool. And so if I can create a message and put it out there, that feels like very aligned with me. That feels like something that's authentic and something that's like, when you talk about being yourself, like I feel like that wrapping that up and putting that out there is like something in my mind that I think is very valuable to me, that I think other people could find very valuable as well. And like people seem to be receptive to it on some level. And if I'm getting comments from people saying, oh, like this is cool, like this is like a great way to look at it. Thanks for this message today. To me now it feels like that, like that is having a positive impact, and that's what is important to me. That's something that makes me feel like I'm having the type of impact that I want to. So just the urge to want to do it, the urge to want to make that a part of my career, and then just committing to doing it and, seeing some positive feedback.
How did you learn how to make science relatable? Was it something you're a natural at, or is it something you had to work at?
It's, that's a good question. So making science relatable to me, which is kind of the definition of science communication, is something that is really important because like I said, one of my beliefs is that learning to think scientifically, you're learning to apply that scientific method to your life is actually really critical to you being able to have the life that you want. So that only works if it's making sense.
Yeah.
Doesn't work if I'm using, there's this thing in academia where people want to use words that nobody knows, that doesn't under, and if you divert from that, if I start speaking in simple terms, then like certain people would maybe scoff at that.
Yeah.
But again, like I don't care. Like I'm not even trying to talk to y'all. I think that a lot of people are missing, to me, a greater significance for some of the niche things that we learn in physics or astrophysics. And yeah, like what is it something that I got better? I think I get better at it, but every once in a while I'll make a video and people will be like, what? Like I'm totally lost. Like what the hell are you talking about, man? And I'll be like, okay, well let me go back to the drawing board and try to do it again. And I think it's something that you get better at, but it's what do you care about? Like, do I care about making people watch this and be like, oh my God, he's smart? No, I don't care about that. I want you to be able to watch it to get something and be like, damn, this actually made my day better. Yeah. Like I learned something and that's true. You know, that's an interesting way to think about it. You know, that's really the reaction that I want to get.
And like a paraphrased quote from Albert Einstein is like, if you can't explain it simply, you don't really know it.
Yeah. You should be able to explain it to somebody who doesn't understand it at all. And if you can't, then like perhaps you're not understanding it as well as you think that you do. I mean, and that's a values thing because some people don't value that. Some people don't value it, like explaining something at a more general level. Yeah. But that is something that I value. That's something I value a lot. And I bet that a lot of that also has come from my background. Like, that was me. Like sitting down watching astronomy documentaries. And if you're not saying it in a way that somebody who has never taken an astronomy class and doesn't know how to do math, could understand it, then it's useless. Yeah.
Sometimes very obviously the way some academia is elitist and so and gatekeeping. So what was your realization about intellectual gatekeeping and how does that go and how you share knowledge?
I love that. This intellectual gatekeeping where it's kind of it's this snobby, like uppity, I know this physics and you don't. I know, like, oh, like, why would you say it like that? You know, and scoffing. This is like academia. That's what academia is, right? Yeah. It's this group of like elitist people that are just on a level that you could never be at. And the interesting thing is, I think when I first got into it, I kind of like wanted to be a part of that. You know, I had always been an athlete. Yeah. That didn't work out. Yeah. The reasons why doesn't even really matter. And I was like, oh, well, this is like my thing now. Like, I want to do this and I want to be this. And the more I was into it, and I bet a lot of it had to do with the fact that the reaction to me, to being, to look at how I look, to acting and talking how I talk, is that I'm like not really one of them, if you will. Yeah. And I'm not really like accepted in that way. And then I kind of get to the point where it's like, it's actually gross, y'all, the attitude that y'all have, the way that y'all talk about like common people or general people, because you've been privileged your entire life to be like able to take this path. Not that you're not intelligent and not that you didn't work really hard to get here. Yeah. Because I know what it takes to get to that level. But, you know, I have no desire to gatekeep that information. Yeah. You know, I think that there's a lot that can help everybody. And I think that it's stuff that people want to know. And they, you know, I do not understand that urge. And I think it comes from the fact that I am like the general person who doesn't know something about science or math. Like that's me. Like I relate to that. It's not even that I relate to it. It's like, that is me. You know, I just built on top of it, the knowledge or the skills or whatever. And so like, that's my people and that's who I'm talking to.
Yeah. What do you feel is the importance of authenticity? And then what is the significance to you of like wearing the grill in your video?
So authenticity to me is one of the things in my scientific method that I need to feel good and to love what I'm doing, to love my life. Yeah. It has to be aligned with me. I just got to be acting the way that I want. It has to be. Yeah. And if that's not okay, then all right, that's fine. But it's got to be aligned with me. And so, and there's been times along the way, not even from like higher ups, professors or anything, but from colleagues who have like given me like negative feedback on, oh, like why would you do that? Oh no, don't do that. Don't wear that. Don't act like that. And no, you know, and a lot of these people don't like what they do, and they don't like how their life is panning out, or you know where they are and whatever it is. So yeah, like I want to wear if I want to wear a grill because it's hard, because I like it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Does that like take away from the information that I know? No, I have my master's in astrophysics.
Right.
I can show you. I'm doing my PhD right now. Like it's a matter of time only before I get that. So, you know, challenging the idea of like what a scientist is or what a scientist look like, or how they sound. I'm perfectly happy to do that.
Yeah. Like
it doesn't take away from me being myself, can't possibly take away from like what I do. That the fact that I am an astrophysicist. So authenticity to me is number one.
Yeah.
And I would say no matter what you're doing, being more authentic, acting more in line with yourself is going to only make you happier.
Yeah.
It's going to make your life better. And if there's people that like reject that or whatever, you lose people because of it. Oh, they didn't like you for who you were. They didn't like your authentic self. So yeah, I mean, authenticity is everything to me.
I feel like a big part of like transitioning from being a child to like an adult, and like what I spent a lot of my 20s doing was realizing that the feedback you get, you can just ignore it. Like you don't have to take all the feedback, like even the feedback you're getting about, you know, doing certain, like whether it's in your career or like in education, you can be like, they told me that, but I don't care, and I'm gonna keep doing it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't realize you can do that.
That's a great point. It's all feedback. Everything that you're getting from other people in whatever capacity relation, it could be a complete stranger.
Yeah.
And people have no problem giving you their feedback. Like, I don't know you.
Even if you don't ask.
Yeah. Like I had somebody recently comment on a video saying that they think I should rethink this video and like change this, and this. And I'm like, I literally did not ask for your direct. I do not need instructions for this. You know what I mean? Like I don't. And it's feedback and it's easy to like let that get to you and be like, and like get like, you know, inside myself or get upset about it. But it's exactly like you said. You don't need to accept all feedback. Like everybody, it's like a peer review. I'm having you review my paper, but you're a worse writer than me. Why do I need to take, you know what I mean? Like I don't need your feedback. And that's cool that you feel that way. But especially when you're putting stuff on the internet, there's like 8 billion people on Earth. You're going to get feedback that is, you know, derogatory or whatever. It's not, you don't need to accept everybody's feedback. I love that. Like I'm gonna start saying that. Yeah.
I feel like in my 30s, it's been a matter of, okay, this is who you can be, or this is how you come off to people. The off-putting things, what am I going to decide? Like, I'm going to just keep it, or what am I going to decide to improve on? That's what my 30s have been. And so that's like the next level of like my 20s was realizing like all of us, we don't know what we're doing. Like, everybody winging it in life, and all this learning of like taking away the mask from childhood. Then my 30s have been like, all right, people think this is bad about me. Do I care? Am I going to improve on it, or am I just be like, it's just going to be me? No,
that's a good point.
Yeah.
Because I know that this, you just developing like a hardline way of thinking of like, I'm just going to be like myself. And if like that is upsetting you or something, like, okay, that's your problem, can also like have negative effects. Where it's like, what if the thing that's me is something that's rude or something that is like, you know, harmful in some way, because you don't want that. And we all have things that we can work on, and it can be hard. That's the thing is, it can be hard to find people in your life who can honestly tell you what some of those things are.
I know about that, like, because I feel like, for me personally, I feel like your family is used to you being you, so they're not correcting you, and then strangers don't know you enough, enough to be like tell you about yourself. Yeah. So it's like you're like kind of moving in the dark and don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
Unless you go to like therapy or something.
Yeah, and I mean, even people that do know you well, like friends, oftentimes won't want to say something that will upset you or that sort of thing, and And that's really a shame.
Yeah.
Because then who is going to tell you?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of times I feel like you'll have friends. I feel like this has been true for me in my life. People that I like really thought of my friends.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, if they have like a problem with me or if there's something, like you said, that I need to work on, it's like evident.
Yeah.
Instead of bringing that to you in a loving way,
yeah,
probably they'll just like talk shit behind you,
mm-hmm.
you know, behind your back or something like that,
yeah.
which is then upsetting, which is an upsetting thing to find out.
Yeah.
So I really value the relationships that I have when, you know, people can like constructively
mm-hmm.
give you feedback
mm-hmm.
like that. That's like such a valuable thing because it's so rare
yeah.
to find that sort of honesty,
yeah.
but out of love.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I have this interesting relationship with invisibility where sometimes I want to be invisible and sometimes I don't want to be invisible.
You need a cloak. Invisibility cloak. They invented something for that.
So, but it comes from like childhood of possibly like not realizing that I was invisible to some people, but because I was such an introvert and into myself, I entertained myself and didn't notice that they thought that of me. Mm-hmm. So fast forward to my adulthood where it manifests in, I'm in these spaces, I've met these people, but they don't care about me. So they don't remember me. So I'm not going to say hi or acknowledge them. But then I realized, because I was like very involved in the Urban League movement, and I would go to these conferences every year, and I would like see people that I know I've talked to, but I'm like, oh, they don't remember me, so whatever. Uh-huh. But then I realized it actually makes me seem like a bitch because they thinking I'm doing that to them. Because I don't have the self-esteem to be like, oh, people remember who I am, and I'm not coming up to you like, hey, I remember you from last year. Woo. Like, but now what I'm projecting on myself is like being projected in the world negatively, and now I look like the person that I think they are. So now I'm like, years ago I worked on like, okay, people do know who I am. People do acknowledge my existence. At least I could try them and be like, hey, and then they could be like, hey, I remember you. Or they could be like, who are you? And I'm like, you fake. Or something like that. So I feel like sometimes even though we exist like in our insecurities, it actually can make us look bad.
Well, I mean, that's a big one. Your insecurities, like understanding what those are, because what happens is that we end up telling ourselves a story that grows and it becomes a belief. And then we, like I said, we all showing up and projecting the things that we believe about ourselves. And so you're now like projecting this big thing, this big belief that you have, that you feel like fabricated by telling, this loop that's running in your head, telling yourself how other people see you, or like whether or not they know you, or like, were you memorable, or like, do you remember them or whatever? And it's like that's a dangerous sort of like a dangerous snowball,
and it can manifest in just many ways for different people. Can you talk about the difference of becoming who you want to become and becoming who is easiest to become through the path of least resistance?
So there's this everything in our universe is energy efficient. Like energy is conserved, and things are very efficient. So for example, if I were to take a ball right here and drop it, it'll drop straight down. It's not gonna like, unless it gets blown by the wind or something, it's not gonna go up, or it's not gonna go over here. It's just gonna go straight down. This is the most energy efficient thing. And you'll find that all the time. Like water will take the shape of a container. It's not gonna like bunch up in some other shape that's not. So it's like a very natural thing that in a system, energy is conserved. And we as humans, we are in a system of other humans, a system of this society, a system of like objects and stuff around. And the same thing is kind of happening for us. Like we're going to conserve energy, which is why it's work to fix something about yourself. Like, the concept of work is actually a physics concept. Work is what it takes to move something a distance, like an amount of energy to take something that has some force and like move it in this direction. Exactly. And so we all are becoming something that was efficient for us to become. Your trauma can lead you to become efficiently a traumatized person
Yeah.
that has this issue.
Mhm.
And if you don't kind of like do the work to unpack that, and, you know, expend that energy to become something else
Yeah.
or someone else, you're going to just become what it was efficient for you to become, which for us is not always
The
a
best.
good thing, right? Because
Yeah.
we're not a ball that's trying to get to the ground.
Yeah.
We are people that are trying to love and be happy and build relationships and achieve things and, you know, just show up as ourselves.
Yeah.
And if you're not cognizant of the things that are affecting you
Yeah.
and the things that have affected you,
Mhm.
you're going to end up just efficiently becoming some trope or
Yeah.
that's why we all recognize these tropes of
And
people.
stereotypes.
Stereotypes, exactly.
Like even in an animation industry, stereotypes are used to communicate efficiently. So the villain wears black and has cornered face.
Mm-hmm.
The hero
has sharp face,
has a rounded face, and wears light colors. So yeah,
that's really true.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about like every villain right now. They have these triangle faces. They're like slim, long with like a wispy hat on or something like that.
And that's what we do with human beings. Like
Yeah.
in human interaction, we just like we don't try to get to know people. As a person who's like very analytical, it's really annoying how human to me. So it's just like, why can't we try harder? Why are we not moving to the next level of humanity? Like,
it's the easiest thing to do is to take one glance at you and then put you, you know, right here because I know. All right, I know you, and that like stereotypes it away. That those are done generalizations.
Yeah,
and they're never right because they're like maybe generally true.
Right.
If you're looking at 1 million people. But that doesn't actually matter on the small scale. Yeah. You have to like work harder. This reminds me of the concept of temperature. Mm-hmm. So like in a room, we're in this room, I don't know, it's maybe 70 degrees in here. Mm-hmm. And what temperature really is, it's a measure of the average kinetic energy of a molecule. So trillions of molecules in this room. They all have some amount of energy. Some of them are probably moving at 1,000 miles per hour. Mm-hmm. Some of them are probably barely moving. But on average, the energy that the molecules in here have is 70. Okay. And that gives you a good idea, like in a big scale, like what's the temperature going to be like? Do I need a coat? Whatever. Yeah. But that isn't actually telling you about specific molecules in here, right? Mm-hmm. If I wanted to get to know a specific molecule in here, it wouldn't be that helpful to know that the average is 70. Yeah. Because I could be trying to get to know this molecule that has a temperature of 5. Mm-hmm. And if I'm going into it thinking that it's going to be 70, I'm way off. Like I'm not close at all. And so like there's a reason we have generalizations. They can be helpful sometimes, but especially on the individual level, they're really not helpful and can be very harmful.
Can you talk about the science of belief and believing yourself, sometimes to the point of delusion, and inviting yourself to the life you want?
Yeah. So I think that there's a couple big things here to think about. Mm-hmm. The science of belief, deluding yourself. Mm-hmm. One thing that we all know about is the placebo effect, which is such a real thing that if I invented a new medicine, they have to test it. They have to give me a fake pill and you the real pill, because there's a chance that if I think I'm taking the real pill and it's just a Skittle or a sugar pill, that I may get healthier. Mm-hmm. Like there's a chance as long as I believe it. Yeah. And it's such a real thing that you literally have to go through this to prove that your medication works. Mm-hmm. Now that's incredible to me. Like that is insane that just believing that you're doing something that's good for you can create the right conditions in your body for you to actually recover. Yeah. That's insane. And so belief, I think there's like scientific evidence for belief being something practically something practical that can really help you. And the other thing is the beliefs that you have about yourself and how those are projected outward. If you're like really insecure about yourself, or you're really shy, or you really think that people hate you, you're going to be like projecting an energy that people are going to pick up on. Yeah. And it's not going to be like an inviting energy where people are going to want to come and interact with you. And you're just like sort of creating the conditions outside of you now that are not leading to what you want. Yeah. And so if you just like delusionally believe in yourself, not taking it too far, because, you know, I think we can come up with some examples of people who are just completely delusional about themselves. Yeah. and caught just like wrecking balls running through society. But and I won't say any names.
We all know.
I won't say any names. But when you do have that positive belief about yourself, you will create the conditions for the things to start to happen in the way that you want.
Yeah.
And that's like so important that to me it's worth being a little bit delusional. Like even if you don't truly feel it, like how do you know that you're this thing if you haven't been able to be it yet?
Yeah.
How do you get to that point?
Mm-hmm.
If you need to believe it to do it, like how do you have to just start believing, and you have to start believing that it's true.
Yeah.
That there's just some time between right now and when that's evident to everybody else.
Yeah.
And acting on that. And like that is delusional.
Mm-hmm.
If I think that I'm a science communicator and I've never done science communication, I'm delusional right now.
Mm-hmm.
But if I start making videos and start getting better at it, it's like that delusion now becomes true. Now it's not really a delusion anymore. In fact, it never really was.
Yeah.
I just needed to believe in myself.
Yeah.
Right? And you can apply that to anything. Apply that to your life or whatever it is.
Yeah. Do you have any final thoughts or words of encouragement for athletes trying to find their path for their second act?
Absolutely. So, oftentimes in sports, we really get pigeonholed into this one thing. And we haven't had the chance that I think most people in college, for example, they really have a chance to explore what they're interested in.
Mm-hmm.
But in football, you don't, or in sports in general, you have the opportunity, but it's not quite the same.
Yeah.
Like, because the focus is split somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
But really try to like intellectually, like what are the things that really make you feel good to engage with?
Yeah.
And that can be hard to find. So you like try things, but have a really open mind about possible interests that you would be perfect to immerse yourself in and, make this focal point of your life just the same way that sports were. And just explore and try those things. There's something that has always interested you, but you've never really fully explored it.
Yeah.
I bet there's a way to build a career around that thing that you love just as much as you love whatever sport it is that you play.
Where can people follow you on social media?
Everywhere. TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, DT Star Kid. Got a YouTube channel that I'm starting as well. Star Kid and the Masters of the Universe. So DT Star Kid everywhere. That's my handle on YouTube as well.
All right. And thank you for watching this interview. This is the second act, Life After Sports.